The Vera Tommy Show. The Vera Tommy Show. The Vera Tommy Show. The Vera Tommy Show. Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Tommy Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. I am excited today about my guest, Mrs. Tricia Parido. And I said it right. Okay. I see she's popping in the background. All right. How are you today?
Hello. I am well. How are you?
I am great. I am going to start by first sharing a little bit about Tricia Parido. She is a recovery lifestyle enthusiast, speaker, and writer. She is a nationally certified life coach, an international master addiction specialist, and a professional life interventionist with a psych degree in process behavior and chemical addiction, who loves to help change lives. As a master life interventionist, Tricia is ever committed to serving her clients worldwide to find the emotional intelligence they need to conquer their life challenges. As an active business owner of a thriving coaching practice, Turning Leaves Recovery, Life and Wellness Coaching, with courses seated in evidence based practices, she not only teaches her clients how to live the life they desire, how to evolve and live free, but she also teaches those that aspire to become professional coaches how to do so passionately and professionally. Well, Tricia, I am elated to have you here.
That
And
was a mouthful.
but you know what? That tells us that you know what you're doing. And others should definitely consider coming to you for additional certifications themselves to be more equipped to handle some of the challenges that we find people are facing today in their homes, on their jobs, in relationships. So you have the secret sauce to help change those lives. But I'm going to give you the floor and give you a few minutes to share your story. Tell us about Trish and your journey, and how did you get to where you are, and what was the fuel that passioned you or impassioned you to do the work that you do?
Well, careful what you ask for. I will say that, if I tell the complete story, we might be here for a couple of days. In fact, when I do tell the story, it usually gets broken down into a few different sessions. But who am I? Right? Um, I am somebody who, like many people in life, have sat in and moved through some very, significant trials, tribulations, traumas, right? So I'm a survivor of sexual assault. I'm a survivor of rape, domestic violence, emotional abuse, some childhood, emotional neglect. But I'm also somebody that had an amazing childhood as well, right? I was reading, writing, doing arithmetic, playing chess at 4, playing classical music by 5.5, and competitively swimming before I was 7. And I had a lot of really good friends, and I had a great social circle, and a lot of amazing things that happened. And I did lose a parent early in life to a traumatic accident. And, in there, so before I was 12, when he died from a traumatic accident, I wasn't a stranger to what alcohol was. And so when he was killed in an accident on vacation, what I saw being modeled for me when I'm looking and I'm like, how are these people functioning right now? Like, I'm devastated. I feel like I can't breathe. I just want to like sit in bed and I don't want to talk to anybody. And I'm 12. I don't understand. How could he have been here yesterday and he's gone today? All of these things. And there's a whole lot of story that comes before that. But anyway, what I witnessed was, everybody had a beer and a cigarette. And I was like, well, I already know I like beer. I've sipped on dad's quite a bit, right? Like, and so it was kind of on for me. I picked up a 6-pack and I grabbed a pack of cigarettes, and it worked, right? So it served me through some very traumatic times in my life. And I'm going to say from, off and on, definitely it's important to say off and on, because again, it wasn't bad always, but off and on from 12 to, let's say 25. And so, there were those times where there was, a heavy leaning into alcohol, but I also, developed anorexia and body dysmorphia, which are also very difficult things to heal from. So, my recovery journey has been long. And it's, it started with healing from anorexia and learning to live with body dysmorphia, because I kept alcohol around for a long time. And it, again, was sometimes was very alcoholic drinking, and other times it was what we would call low severity alcoholic drinking, meaning like 3 to 6 light beers a day, and it was just it wasn't affecting my life, because I met my husband when I was 26, and we combined our families. I had my son early in life. I was unable to have any other kids. And he had 4, but I met him when I was 26. And this is where I really began my recovery journey. I really started healing from from my negative relationship with my body, but I really started healing those traumas. Like feeling like, I was, I didn't hold any value. My thoughts, feelings, emotions, opinions, beliefs, needs, wants, and dreams weren't valid, and were all very unworthy of being realized. And that, my purpose was just to be, subservient, I guess would be the word. And so when I met him and we cultivated our relationship, I found out what unconditional positive regard was. And so we raised our kids. But, something, one of the other big traumas that happened for me was, I had to have a hysterectomy, a full hysterectomy at 29. I had very, very, very severe, for over 10 years, endometriosis that eventually almost killed me. So they had to do a full hysterectomy. So you fast forward and, the kids are all growing up, and, we have 5, and they're all growing up, and then they start moving out. Anyway, I developed generalized anxiety disorder about 9 years, maybe 8 to 9 years after my full hysterectomy. And I was very open about my daily drinking, because at this point in my life, like, it was very, not a big deal. It wasn't causing problems. But my medical provider, so my nurse practitioner, whatever, prescribed me Xanax for my generalized anxiety disorder. And she knew I was a low-level daily drinker, and she prescribed it and continued to prescribe it over the course of 5 years. And so what for me was a synergistic, right, like effect, where the tolerance is built. And I never was abusing. I wasn't seeking. I was never looking for, that high, but it was so quiet and it was so subtle. Like, I opened my eyes 5 years later and it was like, oh my God, what happened? Like, I can't function without these things. And when I try, like, I feel like I'm going to die. And if you know anything about alcohol and benzodiazepines, which Xanax is, like, you know that those are the two dangerous ones that you don't come off of without medical supervision. So, that's when I went to treatment. And so then I was like all confused. I'm like, look, I've always been able to rein things in. I've been a control freak my whole life, right? Like, why couldn't I control this? So, I went to school so I could learn. And so as I dove into my studies, I got more and more interested. And so I really realized a lot of things about myself, those control needs, the perfectionism, the people pleasing codependency. I started uncovering a lot of different process and behavioral aspects about me and the way that my brain worked, whether it was conditioned or just organic, but all very addictive. And so as I'm studying over the course of at least 5.5 years, I'm creating, cultivating, and shifting these things, and I'm realizing that it was really had nothing to do with the chemical substances. It had a lot to do with everything else, right? So, I mean, this is just where my passion unfolded, was realizing how much it's really about those other areas, those other elements, that make us up as the human being, how we translate our environments, and the things that we hear and the things that we experience, and how we actually internalize them, that actually are creating the issues. And I don't know, I'm in my 50s, right? Like, so I know, like, our parents weren't thinking about mental health, and I know my mom was still sweeping things under the rug, and it was always, you put on your good face, get dressed, right? Like, everything's picture perfect, and then you go outside. Like, nobody gets to know what's going on in here. And so those were the examples we were led by. And so thank goodness we're talking about mental health these days.
Yes, absolutely. And our stories are so similar. There are some things that are parallel in terms of our experiences. And one thing's for sure, you could never do what you do had you not had those experiences, because you can't teach what you don't know. You can't
Right.
give what you don't have. And in order for you to do what you do, you had to go through. And a lot of times we wonder, well, why me? Why am I going through this? Why is this happening? But it's because our pain becomes our purpose. Our pain becomes our passion. And that's exactly what has happened to you. And now just think of the lives that you're able to touch, not only from a clinical or an educational or a certifiable experience, but from your own experience, you can relate and identify with what people are going through, and be able to help them.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I give you the real fluffy version. There's a whole lot of other gray, charcoal, black areas that
We all have.
that got left out. But sure, absolutely.
Wow, that is amazing. And our topic is living without habits. And earlier I had said to you, but what about those good habits? Those habits that we are taught or told that we need to develop in order to be the entrepreneurs that we need to be, and all those kinds of things. So speak on that.
Well, let me ask you a question first.
Okay.
Okay. How much do you lean into and say, work on, I've got to be present. I have to be connected with myself, mind, body, spirit. How much do you do that?
I think about it a lot.
That's important to you. Yeah.
It is
Okay.
important to
So
me.
what is a habit? A habit is an impulsive action without a lot of thought. So if you want to create all of these habits, you're saying, I want to be moving through life habitually with doing a bunch of impulsive actions without a lot of thought, not connected to it. Now, with my fitness background, I can talk about this, right? Because we can do curls like this, right? Flinging it around. But if we aren't connected, mind, body, spirit, to what we are physically doing, right? Paying attention to the muscle that we're actually trying to work, we're not going to get the results we want. We sure may over time get something from doing this, but this isn't doing anything. This is going through emotion. It's not doing anything. So it's one thing to appreciate the value that we get from our 6 a.m. spin class. It is another to come unglued and have a completely terrible day because I couldn't make it to that 6 a.m. spin class.
Okay.
So if it changes your attitude, your mood, your demeanor, your entire approach to the day, because you can't have that one thing outside of you, that thing that's outside of you, and it's going to change, manipulate the whole trajectory of your day, it's a bad relationship.
Okay.
Right? So bear with me. Oh, you want to ask the question first?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So there's a lot of layers to this, and I teach a lot about this, and I've expanded this amazing theory, method, modality, whatever you want to call it, to huge links in the work that I do. But it's the locus of control theory. So if we think about this, right, we rely on people, places, things outside of us to bring us peace, joy, comfort, relief, value, validity, and worthiness. So I'm pissed off, I'm angry, I need a beer. So I've now given an emotional purpose to that beer. And it's habitually, boom, mad, drink a beer. Get off work, drink a beer. Whatever it is, right? In the morning, I've got to get invigorated, got to go to the spin class. Whatever, it's things outside of you. It's a false reliance on other things. But it works in the opposite direction also, because you also allow things outside of you, other drivers on the freeway, other people shopping in the store, your spouse, your sibling, your whoever, other things outside of you. You give them the power to come in and change the way you think, feel, believe, or whatever, right? So it's this locus of control. We get to choose. When you pick up your cell phone to read a text message, the inflection and tone in your voice, the experience that you have with that text message is 100% solely up to you.
I love it. I love it. This is so important because so often, so often we want to contribute everything about us to all those things that are outside of us.
I couldn't be that because you did it.
You made me do this, and you know, oh my God. Okay,
you make me feel.
Yes. Oh, don't get me started. This is one of the things we got. Wait a minute. We have a user saying, Trish, I really enjoyed listening to you. God bless you. May you help many. Amen, amen, amen. And I feel exactly the same way. And when people tell me, well, you made me do this. No, you made yourself do that. We choose, right? I cannot make anybody do anything, just as no one can make me do anything. It's about choice. It's about acceptance of those choices. And it's about going inside going inside ourselves and accepting responsibility for everything. Everything. Yep. And that's hard. But also, I love the fact that we should be living in the moment, living in the now. Not, because you talked about doing those curls. Well, if you're in the gym doing the curls, but you're thinking about what you got to do later on in the day, or what happened before you went to do the curls, then I understand how it doesn't work.
Right.
Wow.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's extremely interesting, right? And I hear a lot, right? Like, oh, I know this concept. I know this, I know this, thing that you're talking about. And, because people have been, and I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but they've been in, they've seen their fair share of therapeutic rooms. So the difference is, and I love therapy, and don't get me wrong, I work with plenty of them, and I connect a lot of my clients with them. But when we talk about a life recovery journey, and why living without habits fixes everything, and the things that we can do to change the way we take in the external stimuli, and change the way we receive it. When we talk about that, what I've done is I teach. I've converted all of those psychological skill sets and tactics into a coaching model where we are now going to apply the practical application of them for you in your life, because everybody is different. So if you read that self-help book and you go, okay, I read it, I know it, and now wait, this is my other favorite thing, right? Nothing changed for me. I read the book and nothing changed for me. So this is my manifestation disease, right? Like the world has this. I'm manifesting. But in their manifestation, which by the way is an action word, when you look it up, right? It's an action word.
You got to do something.
Right? If you're manifesting and you're sitting there just reading the book, but you're taking zero action and you're doing nothing to inquire to gain a deeper understanding of how you can use it in your life, how it will serve you, not, and actually start to do those steps, you're not manifesting. You're reading. You're learning, you're gaining knowledge. Okay, that's part of it. But if you're not willing to move, it's like that person that says, I want to lose 10 pounds, but they sit on the couch every night and dive into the Ben and Jerry's because, oh, wait, Ben and Jerry's fixes my emotional state of being in that time and space. Right. Oh, right. Okay, so we gotta get rid of the habitual way of being and step into what is a true, authentic happiness.
And you say authentic happiness. What people don't understand is we look out here for happiness even. And
outside of us.
Bring
me joy.
Outside, yeah.
Bring me joy.
When in actuality, we can find that happiness within us. And one of the things that I just became aware of is this laughter therapy, and how you can, I love it because even if you are not feeling happy,
it's a healthy distraction.
It
right?
is.
And everybody's got to find their own healthy distraction. However, we can only use healthy distraction when it's not to avoid or procrastinate actually dealing with it. So it's okay to need to distract for a certain period of time, right? So I teach a shelving system. So we can put things on the shelf, but we can't not ever return to visit them.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay to say I need to table this conversation because it's getting a little heated for me. Or I don't know how I think, feel, believe about it. Can I get back to you? Right? And do some processing. Put it on the shelf for a minute. But you got to come back to it. Because here's what we do. Ready? All of you folks that are walking around, right? We fill our bag. We have this heavy weight of all of the yesterdays. We're either comparing, like, oh, I used to be this. I used to be that. You said this. You said that. And all the while we're filling this bag along the way.
Such a weight.
So wronged me. I've got this trauma. I've got that trauma. I've got this. Let me fill that bag. But while we're filling that bag that's holding us back, we're also, so now we're stuck at point A minus, right? But we're looking at Z and we're saying, I want to be there. So now we've got the heavy weight of the past and the future trip and anxiety inducing uncertainty. and we wonder why we can't function, right? You cannot get from A to Z without doing B through Y, and you're certainly not going to get there lugging 10, 20, 30 years of stuff with you.
Thank you. You can't move forward looking back. It's impossible. You cannot move forward looking back. And like I often say, if God intended for us to look back, he would have put eyes in the back of our heads. He did not do that. You can't do anything about yesterday. It's gone. It's over. So why
you can't do anything about 5 minutes ago?
Exactly. So why are you carrying such a load? And it is a load. And then we wonder why people are sick.
Yeah. It's an external, right? Like I've got to go find something outside of me to calm me down, to make me feel better, whether that's a person, place, or a thing, right? Like I've got to go find something to make me feel better because I got to go ruminate, wallow, and languish in this. I got to go tell all the other people, right? Like you get cut off on your way to work. What do? You go in, you pour yourself a cup of coffee, you tell everybody all about it. And you get by the time at lunch, you're still talking about it. And oh my gosh, if you don't tell your spouse about it the second you get home, can you believe what this person did to me on the way to work? Like that was so 10 hours ago. Let it go.
Right.
Be over it. Like move on. It was not even a full second out of your life. Like let it go.
And you know,
we choose that pain.
Right. And people, it's so hard for people to do that. And that's why they need you. And I've got to go to a commercial. What I need, one of the things I did not do is have you put in the private chat how people can reach you so I can put it in. Okay.
I will pull that up while you're doing your commercial.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let me go to the commercial and we will be right back. I'm okay here. Okay. Here we go.
Mama Knows creates high quality products that are available to be used on multiple textures of hair. Her goal is to bridge the gap to stop people from having to use multiple products because of families with multiple hair types. Her products are currently being used on men, women, children of all ethnicities. Mama Knows products are available at www.mamaknowsproducts.com. That's www.mamaknowsproducts.com. You can also find her on Instagram at Mama Knows Products because, you know, Mama knows what you need.
Knows what you need. And let me tell you about these products. They smell so good. And we're talking shampoos, conditioners, moisturizers, oils, anything and they're not just for Black people. It's her products are for all ethnicities and men, women, and children. Mama Knows. So check out mamaknowsproducts.com. I'm telling you, wonderful stuff. One more commercial. Let me run this. Yes, 365 devotion. If you are thinking about being a writer, or you want to be an author, or you want to just share your spiritual devotion and prayer or poem, contact Vanessa Blackwell at vrblackwell@gmail.com. She wants 365 people to write a devotional or a anything inspirational for this book. She's still looking for, she has quite a few already, but she's still looking for more. So contact Vanessa Blackwell at vrblackwell@gmail.com. All right. All right. There we go. All right. Now, you gave me so much. I'm going to have to decipher some of this because if I put it all, well, I can put it there like that. Okay. This is how you can reach Tricia Parido. Did I say it right again? Parido. Okay. And I have it in the comments, so it will stroll. Um, she she is awesome, absolutely awesome. And what we're talking about is just so on point, so on point. And so, tell me, let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that you were mentioning.
Oh, well, gee, where would you like for me to pick up?
You can go wherever you want.
So if we're talking about why living without habits fixes everything, right? Like we're talking about, okay, so we've identified what that looks like, right? It's that reliance on something outside of us to bring us peace, joy, comfort, relief, value, validity, worthiness, or it's, allowing things outside of us to change and manipulate us, right? Like that locus of control. But so, okay, great. What do you do about it? Right? Like how? And so there's a lot of steps that go into it. And it's really, if I'm being honest, it's like a really expanded development of the emotional intelligence you didn't know you didn't have, but need in order to experience living the way that you truly want to. And in that, you also have to develop a certain level of composure, right? And impulse control and distress tolerance. You've got to know how to reduce your vulnerability, and you have to have emotion regulation. And I say this very lovingly, but what do you do? And I'm just going to ask you a question. So what is your go-to, right? Like getting centered and grounded tactic?
You're asking me?
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I pray. I really pray. I also breathe and I meditate. Now, let me say, at one point, I was drinking wine every day, just a glass or two, Now, when I was younger, I did drink quite a bit to the point where my family was really concerned about me. But, and I guess I was masking some things, the hurt and stuff that I was feeling. And so I used to drink quite a bit. But that's all gone, and I don't even drink wine like I used to. But and cigarettes and so
yeah, and I think most people will say, like, hey, you know what? When I think about getting centered and grounded, most of the people that I talk to will say, right, yoga, meditation. I go for a run, right, something like that, something that requires them to basically stop living in whatever it was in and go over here, right? Again, so another something outside of me, although meditation is very internal. So I'm not bagging on it because I think they are very beautiful ways of centering our soul and getting in connection with ourselves.
Oh, where's that coming from?
I don't know. But if we think about it, you have smoke?
Okay. No, that was my phone. It just started doing that out of the blue. All right. That's weird. Anyway, go ahead.
So if we're driving our car or we're at the grocery store and something derails us and we need to get centered and grounded, we can't drop into downward dog or sit on the floor and go into meditation. We need cognitive ways that get us centered and grounded right now, right? Like, so it's mindfulness that mindfulness-based practice that is very cognitive in nature. And so we have to have those. So that's number one. We have to cultivate them because
I'm going to write this down as you're saying it, but first I want to get this banner off of here, and I want to put it down. So let's give our audience some tips of things that they can do when they need to focus or when things are bothering them. So tell me what you said, mindfulness.
Well, okay, so cognitive mindfulness, right? So we have to have, so I mean, it's great to have meditation, prayer, yoga, those things. Those things are all great to have in your life as long as you're not doing them habitually. Where they are, like, oh my God, I'm gonna, like have a freak attack if I don't have it, right? Like those things are all great to have in your life. But for those times when you're driving your car, you're at a store or somewhere where you feel that derailment coming, that you have a cognitive way of getting centered and grounded, right? Because we have to be able to get centered and grounded in any moment, no matter what's going on. So, I mean, I give all of my clients, like a good, I don't know, I always try to give a good 5 to 10 tactics for them to try to practice until we add, edit, delete, change, shift, morph it to work for them, because everybody's a unique individual being. But just even a stop sign visualization, like, no, stop, take a breath, right? We did the 5, 5, and 5 before we started, right? Like, nope, stop and breathe. That's something where, we have to be, because, if somebody's tailgating you on the freeway, it serves nobody if you get all in a frenzy, tap your brake, they get mad, they're flipping birds, and this whole dance that goes on, right? Like that doesn't serve anybody. But if you simply move over and let them go by and wish them well, because you don't know what's going on. Sure, they could have stayed up last night late, tying one on. They're hungover, agitated, and running late, or their kid could have just got hit by a train and they're just trying to get to the hospital. Either way, it's none of your business, right? It's none of our business what's going on. And people will argue with me about that. But look, here's the deal. My life mantra is, this is my life too. It gets to look, feel, be however I want it to. I get to choose. But with that mantra means I have to give it to every other person on the planet.
Can you repeat that again? Because I'm putting it in the comments. This is my life too.
It gets to look, feel, be however I want it to. I get to choose.
Yes.
But with that mantra, you have to offer it to every other being on the planet. If you want that to be your mantra, you've got to be willing to give that to every other being. So, right? So we have to think about that. So we have to have cognitive ways to get centered and grounded, so that we can stop ourselves from habitually going off, from habitually leaning into Ben and Jerry's, from habitually or online shopping, from habitually being a people-pleasing codependent, from habitually overbooking our calendar, from whatever, right? Boom. So we've got to learn the art of pause. We've got to have something that prompts us to get there.
Yes.
And we have to know how to formulate responses instead of reactions. These don't have to be answered the second it comes in, right? You can read it and go back to it later, like, or don't even read it, right? Am I in the right headspace to pick up messages right now? No, I'm not. Well, then don't.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that's a really critical piece. And then I'd love to challenge everybody to broaden another perspective. I got one more after that, but I'd like for you to broaden your perspective. So I'm going to ask you to throw out everything that you think you know about boundaries. Throw it all out, because I'm here to tell you what. Okay, I'm bringing in some goats right now, right? What do we do with goats? We put them in a boundary system so they can, because otherwise they'll eat everything, right? So we put them in a boundary system. If that boundary system was so rigid, so inflexible, so immovable, what happened to the goats? They'd starve, right? What do we have to do? We have to be able to reshape it, move it over here, change it up, right?
Now, one of the things that I say, and it's, we do need to have, now this is my opinion, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. There are points and times when we need boundaries that are not flexible, but guidelines that are.
Okay, so here's the second half of what I was talking about, right?
Okay.
So
All right.
boundaries are not those hard, fast stops. By definition, and I'm a wordy, by definition, what everybody in the world considers or refers to as a boundary is a limit or a limitation. Look it up.
Okay. All right.
Right? Because a limit is a point in which we can go no further, right? We cannot go beyond. And a limitation is virtually the same, right? Like I cannot have more than one cookie, because if I eat more than one cookie, I'm gonna have the whole dozen, right? Whatever it is. But that's a limitation. A limitation is I know I can hang out with my family for 2 hours before their drinking prompts me to want to play catch up, right? This is what I use for my folks in recovery, right?
Right.
But so if I know that I can hang with them for 2 hours, right? So now we're setting limits and limitations, right? That I know I have to be out of the building, out of the wherever we are, the park, the whatever. My butt's got to be in my car an hour and 45 minutes in, and I'm in reverse. Right? So I set those limits and limitations. I go to the party and I say hello and goodbye to everybody, right? Like, hey, grandma, I can't stay long. So I want to make sure I spend some time with you. I'm not going to come back around and talk to you again before I leave. So this is your hello and goodbye. And you do that with the next person and the next person and the next person, and you're out of there, right? Those are limits and limitations. Those are boundaries. I don't want you to touch me or tickle me. Those are limits and limitations. No.
But let me ask you, if you recognize that scenario that you just gave, if you recognize that you have a certain amount of time before everybody's going to start getting out of character and all this stuff, if you know that and you don't want to be a part of it, why would you not leave? Why would you not recognize and be cognizant of that as a boundary?
Well, that's like a really great question, but then you're leaning into it again. Remember, the example was for somebody that was in recovery, right? Like, I don't want to drink with them. So no, but you still want to engage with the family, etc. And it's not that you wouldn't want to leave, but if you know, or if you've lived it, or if you've experienced it, believe me, I've sat there and stayed sober for a long period of time, and then I'm like, fuck, give me another one, right? Give me one, right? Like, bring it on. Because it's the old conditioned way of being, right? So we could dig into those whys, but so limits and limitations, right? New words for boundaries.
Okay, limits and limitations. Okay.
Yeah. So boundaries in my method, in my practice, are a filtration system.
Okay.
They are created to protect you and everybody around you. Right? So you have your external boundary, you have your internal boundary, you have your temporal boundary, which is your emotional boundary, and your physical boundary. Now, It's a filtration system. And I say this in the most loving way, but it can be as opaque or as translucent as you desire. And so there's an exercise where you can learn to create it. But also the beauty of it is you can create it for every room you walk into. It gets to be whatever you need it to be, but you've got to be in touch with it, which means we've got to learn how to hear what our cognitive body, our emotional body, and our physical body are actually telling us.
Yes. Check out Tricia. You need to see Tricia. Oh my goodness. Because so much of this, people don't recognize and understand how, and what you're talking about is having that kind of power, that inner power that drives you, that controls you rather than you being controlled by things or people or situations or circumstances. Oh my God. That is powerful. And I do need to do another commercial.
Do it.
Entrepreneurs living the dream. Hot topic speakers, and this is on July 29th. It is a virtual event, and I want to encourage you to please register. It's going to be an awesome experience. Hot Topics. I'm one of the speakers, as a matter of fact. And so go to hottopicspeakers.eventbrite.com. I've put it here. And register today. Register today. And speaking of which, I need your support. So I am asking you to please consider either being a sponsor for my show, advertising on my show, or just donating to my show. And you can do that through Cash App, as the dog is barking. You guys hear me, right? Through Cash App, it's still great. PayPal, the Vera Thomas Show 1117@gmail.com, or Venmo at VT 1117. So please donate to help me bring the quality programs that I bring, like Tricia, and the quality stuff and information that she's giving. We need your help. So support me, please, or consider being a sponsor, or let's talk about you advertising on my show. All right. Now, I can't believe the time has gone as fast as it has. We've got 10 minutes, and there's still a lot. We talked about living without habits and understanding what she means by that. if we're more living in cognitive mindfulness, then the habits don't need to exist. If we're living in cognitive mindfulness, then the boundaries as we know them need not exist. I love it. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about this cognitive mindfulness.
Well, you know, when we have our filtration system, and we're saying, how much of this is for me and how much of it actually belongs to that other person, because it's okay. We don't have to take things on. We actually give enough space and breathing room to lean into other things that allows so much more expansiveness to come in our experiences. So, we have this ability to say, utilize the power of inquiry, like, wow, like that's really interesting that you feel believe that. Like, I'd love to know more about how you arrived at that, instead of being like, don't try to tell me I'm wrong, and don't try to change the way I think, or getting all, whatever, right? Like wilting like a dandelion in the 100-degree heat, right? Like just be able to actually converse and not feel like you need to be changed or manipulated in any way, and feel comfortable and confident in that, like, and be able to say like, and now that internal one is going to protect you and the others from what you send back out, because it's going to be more responsive. It's going to be more like, I value and appreciate you sharing with me all of your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your opinions. I tend to have a differing view. If you're interested to hear, I'm happy to share. Right? Instead of, we're always trying to make people hear us and make people listen. I'll tell you what, right? Like, anybody that came in and stopped listening is because whatever I was saying was a foreign language to them. I'm an acquired taste. I get it, right? It's fine with me. I don't need somebody to hear me that doesn't want to. I
love it.
Kids that ask me questions and then talk over me when I'm giving them the answer. And so as adults now, they're like, well, like, how come you never finished giving me, your input, or, you never gave me your input? I'm like, you were open to receiving. When you're ready to receive, let me know. I'm happy to sit back down with you.
You know what? This is so important.
A lot of money for what's up here. Nah, man. And I lived a lot of life for what's up here.
Exactly.
You don't just get given freely.
Exactly. And I just love it. I love it because you're talking about people understanding and taking back their power, and recognizing that we don't have to justify anything. We don't have to try to make people see things the way that we see it, nor do we need to criticize and belittle others because they don't see things the way that we do.
That's what's wrong in society, right? And we won't go down that rabbit hole, because I choose to keep a lot of my personal, opinions and views about a lot of things to myself, because they're mine, right? Just like, anyway, but if we look at this, right, like, we dig our heels in so sternly just to prove that we're right. And we operate in the stance of what I call the stance of a judger all the time. And we judge anybody and everything that isn't in alignment exactly with what we think, feel, and believe. Although this is my life too. It gets to look, feel, be however I want it to, right? Like,
yes.
But we judge other people instead of going through life in the stance of a learner. So
yes, in the stance of a learner. She throws up on
Here we go. If we could broaden our perspective a little bit more around what assertive communication is, because I think over time things lose their luster, or they lose their full message, if you will. Just like playing telephone, right? It was 50 words and at the end it's only 10, right? So assertiveness is not super stern, blunt, to the point, right? That's borderline aggressive communication, right? Assertiveness is open, honest, genuine,
Yes.
transparent, and
Yes.
authentic communication in
Yes.
all things you do.
And
Like,
it's not what
show
you
up.
say, it's not what you say, but how you say it. And
Yes.
we don't have to be so crass. We don't have to be so rude. We don't have to
Nope.
be so judgmental, as Tricia is saying. We don't need to be. And the thing is, when we display those things, we're not only hurting other people, but we're hurting ourselves. We're creating some stuff that's going on inside of us that can make us sick. I'm telling you, if we thought about the things that are making us sick, the
Mhm.
attitudes, the behaviors, the things that we say to each other, the way we treat each other, the way we treat ourselves. Come on, people. You need to talk to Tricia.
Just ask yourself, like, how do I want to see myself experiencing living?
Yes,
How do
exactly.
I want to experience my environments? And how do I want to
Exactly.
be received in those environments? And then pick up a mirror and ask yourself, is that what it looks like for you right now? Because if it's not a hard journey. It might be uncomfortable at sometimes, but it's not a hard journey. And not everybody's journey looks the same, and not all of the
No,
shifts are the same. And there is
exactly.
no one size fits all anything. We got to
No,
quit trying to fit ourselves in to a box. This is what we try to do with all of these other, with a lot of things, right? Like we do that self-help thing, right? Like, great, I read it. So now I'm trying to fit my life into somebody else's method or modality, right? Whatever. I'm comparing myself and I'm going, ooh, I want what that person has, right? I'm gonna go read their thing.
yes. But we cannot allow ourselves to be caught up in that, and as a mature person,
Yeah,
we have to recognize that, we have more control over we only have control over us.
we
And
have to. Yeah, we have to take those things and we have to incorporate them into our lives. I teach everybody how to add, edit, delete, change, shift, morph, make it your own, right? Because it worked for somebody else doesn't mean you don't need to tweak it to fit what you need.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, Trisha and I both are coaches, and the thing is, we want to see you change only because it's going only if you want to change first. Let me say, because we can't make you change, and that's the other thing. People get into relationships that may not be the best relationship for them, and they think, "Oh, well, they'll change. We'll get them to change." Well, nah, it doesn't work that way. You
Tried that.
know, beg your pardon.
I tried
And
that with my second marriage. It didn't work.
it doesn't work.
No.
People are the way they are, and just like Oprah said, Maya Angelou says, when people show you who they are, believe them. Don't try to change them. They are not going to change. And you need to understand that. We've got another comment coming in. Will there be a replay of this? I came on too late and I love to listen. Yes, there's a replay. There's a replay on Facebook, YouTube, and also on LinkedIn. So please check this out. This has been most valuable. All right. It has been. Trisha, this has been such an honor, such a pleasure to have you on. Our minds, we're on the same page with how we feel about things. And it's just awesome. And, we've got less than a minute. I'm going to give you the last couple of seconds. And then if you would kind of hold on just for a minute after I close
Mhm.
out. So with that, everybody, Tricia is going to give the last words. I will see you on Tuesday. God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much. I want to leave everybody with this thought. Again, we're broadening perspectives here today. So when people hear the words addiction or they hear the words recovery, their minds automatically go to the down, the out, the ill, the poorly functioning, the people that need to be removed from their lives and taken someplace else so that they can be fixed. That's not certainly that is one population. That is one part of who benefits from a recovery journey. That's part of who struggles with addictions. But remember, they are process, they are behavioral, and they are chemical in nature, and they all stem on a reliance of things outside of us, and that emotional purpose that we give to them. So we do not need things outside of us to bring us peace, joy, comfort, relief, value, validity, and I ran out of fingers, worthiness. So do consider a life recovery journey. If it's not with me, I totally understand. I'm also very good with it if I don't speak your language, but just understand that there are so many different reasons to need a recovery journey, that it's not just the standard chemical addictions that we are conditioned to think of when we think of it.
Amen.
Conversations are always complimentary. You can just click a button at the top of my website, and I'm happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
The Vera Time Mission. The Vera Time Mission. The Vera Time Mission. The Vera Time Mission. Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Time Show. Let's talk